My car died on a deserted Missouri back road, smoke billowing from the hood, my entire life crammed into the trunk. I had nothing. No job, no home, no future. Then a man in oil-stained coveralls pulled over, and with grease-covered hands and the kindest smile I'd ever seen, he changed everything. I fell for the humble mechanic. I had no idea he owned half the city. The check engine light had been flickering for 50 miles, but I'd ignored it, just like I'd ignored the eviction notice, the final paycheck that barely covered gas, and my mother's voice saying I'd never make it as a writer. Now, on this empty stretch of Route 65 outside Springfield, Missouri, my Honda was dying. Then it stopped completely. I coasted to the shoulder as smoke curled from under the hood. November wind cut through my cracked window, carrying the smell of burning oil and failure. 28 years old. $247 in my bank account. A trunk full of belongings and a manuscript 17 agents had rejected. The call center job in Atlanta was gone. Downsizing. My apartment was foreclosed on when I couldn't make rent. Aunt Denise had offered her guest room in Springfield. Just until you get back on your feet. Except now I couldn't even make it to her house. I pulled out my phone. No signal. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel, feeling everything. Fear, shame, exhaustion from trying so hard and still failing. A vehicle slowed behind me, an old pickup truck, paint faded, but the engine was running smoothly. My first instinct was fear. Woman alone, deserted road. But then the driver emerged. Tall, maybe 6'2", dark hair that needed cutting. Coveralls that had seen better days. White, mid-30s, with weathered hands from real work. But his eyes stopped me. Warm brown, holding genuine concern instead of the predatory calculation I'd learned to recognize. "You okay?" he called, keeping a respectful distance. "My car died." My voice came out small. "Mind if I take a look? I'm Dylan. Run the repair shop in town." A mechanic. God had a sense of humor. "Kendra." I popped the hood. "I can't afford whatever's wrong." Dylan studied the engine with focused attention, occasionally reaching in to check something. His movements were efficient, sure. Someone who knew exactly what he was looking at. "When's the last time you changed your oil?" I tried to remember. 6 months? I've been meaning to. "Your engine's running on fumes and hope." No judgment in his tone. "Probably seized. You're lucky you didn't blow the whole thing." "Lucky," I repeated hollowly. He glanced at me, and something in my expression made his face soften. "Rough day? Rough year? Rough everything?" He nodded like he understood. "I can get this running enough to make town, about 15 miles. Not permanent, but it'll get you there. After that, we'll figure it out." "I told you." "I can't." "We'll figure it out," Dylan repeated firmly. "Let me grab my tools." For 20 minutes I watched him work, adjusting, tightening, doing things I didn't understand, but clearly mattered. His movements were methodical, almost meditative. Not just a job, but something he cared about. "You're really good at this," I said. Dylan smiled without looking up. "I love cars. Always have. Engines are honest. They tell you exactly what's wrong. They don't lie." "Must be nice. People aren't that straightforward." "No," he agreed quietly. "They're not." He straightened, wiping grease-stained hands on a rag. "Try it now." The engine caught. Rough, unhappy, but running. "Won't last long," Dylan warned. "Follow me to town. If it dies, flash your lights." "You don't have to." "I know." His smile was gentle. "But I'm heading that way. And you look like you could use one thing to go right today." The simple kindness, no expectation, no judgment, made my throat tight. "Thank you." "Save your thanks for when we get there." I followed his pickup through farmland and scattered houses, my car protesting but holding together through whatever magic Dylan had worked. I thought about my manuscript, finding home, about a woman rebuilding after everything collapsed. I'd poured my heart into those pages, convinced someone would see it, understand it. 17 rejections said otherwise. But watching Dylan's taillights, how he kept checking his mirror to ensure I was behind him, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Faint and fragile, but there. Maybe Springfield wouldn't be my ending. Maybe it would be a beginning. We pulled into town as sunset painted everything golden. Dylan led me through brick-lined streets and local shops, downtown unchanged for 50 years. Carter's Auto Repair sat on a corner, converted gas station with 2 bays and a small office. Hand-painted sign, faded but solid. Dylan walked back as I killed the engine. Think it'll start again? Maybe. But let's not test it. He pulled out his phone. What's your aunt's address? I'll drive you. You've already done so much. Kendra. Patient but firm. It's dark. You don't know this town, and your car's held together with wishes. Let me give you a ride. Please. The please got me, like he was asking for himself as much as offering. Okay, thank you. I grabbed my purse and laptop bag, the one with my manuscript backup. Everything else could wait, as Dylan's truck smelled of coffee and old leather and motor oil, somehow not unpleasant. Old Rock played quietly. What brings you to Springfield? He asked. Starting over. Again. I watched the unfamiliar town pass. Lost my job in Atlanta. Lost my apartment. My aunt offered me her guest room while I figure things out. What kind of work? Customer service at a call center. Hated every second. Surprising honesty. But I'm a writer. Trying to be. That's what I really want. Dylan's expression brightened. Yeah? What do you write? Women's fiction. Stories about real people, real problems? Bitter laugh. Turns out nobody wants to read those. I doubt that. What's the real problem? So direct, so genuinely curious, I answered truthfully. 17 agents have rejected my manuscript. I'm starting to think maybe they're right. Maybe I'm kidding myself. Or maybe you haven't found the right person yet. Dylan turned onto a residential street. My dad used to say things worth doing are always hardest. If it came easy, everybody would do it. Your dad sounds wise. Something flickered across his face. Pain, regret. He was. Died 3 years ago. I'm sorry. Me too. His hands tightened briefly. He'd left behind a lot of expectations. Pressure to be someone I'm not sure I want to be. There was a story there, but before I could ask, Dylan pulled up to a craftsman-style house, porch light glowing. This is it? Yeah, Aunt Denise's place. I gathered my bag, reluctant to leave. Thank you. Really, you saved me today. Bring your car tomorrow. I'll really look at it. See what we're dealing with. He handed me a card. And Kendra, don't give up on writing. Some agents saying no doesn't mean your story isn't worth telling. I clutched the card, Carter's Auto Repair, Dylan Carter, owner, and felt hope strengthen. Maybe. Definitely. Dylan waited until Aunt Denise opened the door, pulled me into a hug, before driving away. Inside, my aunt fussed, showed me the guest room, and promised we'd talk tomorrow. But I was thinking about a mechanic with kind eyes who'd stopped for a stranger, who talked about engines like poetry and hadn't judged me for failing. Tomorrow I'd deal with my car, with finding work, with the practical disasters. Tonight, for the first time in months, I went to sleep, thinking maybe things might be okay. I had no idea the humble mechanic was hiding a secret that would change everything. No idea that falling for Dylan Carter would be the easiest and most complicated thing I'd ever done. For now, I just felt grateful someone had stopped. Sometimes hope starts with one small act of unexpected kindness on the worst day of your life. What would you do? Trust a stranger who stops to help, or keep your guard up? Drop your thoughts below. Morning came with unfamiliar sunlight. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then reality crashed back. Springfield. Aunt Denise's house. My broken-down car at a repair shop owned by a stranger who'd been kinder in 2 hours than most people had been in months. Aunt Denise was already in the kitchen, coffee brewing. 60-something, my mother's older sister, with silver-streaked hair and the same sharp eyes that ran in our family. "You look exhausted," she said, pulling me into a hug. "When's the last time you really slept?" "I don't remember." I accepted the coffee mug. "Thank you for letting me stay. I promise it won't be long." "Kendra Marie Wright, stop that." Her voice was firm. "Your family, stay as long as you need." "Now, what about your car?" I told her about the breakdown, about Dylan stopping to help. Her expression shifted when I mentioned his name. "Dylan Carter, good man, quiet, keeps to himself, but honest. Fair prices, too, which is rare." She refilled her coffee. "The shop's only been open a few years, but he's got a reputation. Best mechanic in 3 counties. He seemed different." "Different how?" I struggled to explain. Like he was doing this because he wanted to, not because he had to. Like he actually cared. Aunt Denise smiled. "Well, you could do worse than having him fix your car." "Want me to drive you over?" Carter's auto repair looked different in daylight. Older brick construction, probably from the 50s. Meticulously maintained. Lot swept clean. Windows spotless. Classic cars in various restoration stages visible through the open bays. Dylan was bent over a pristine '69 Camaro, absolute focus. He didn't notice us at first. In daylight, I could see he was closer to 35, with lean strength from physical work, something almost elegant in how he moved around the engine, like a craftsman creating art. "Morning, Dylan," Aunt Denise called. He straightened, and when his eyes found mine, his face broke into a smile that did something complicated to my stomach. "Kendra, I was wondering when you'd show up." He wiped his hands on a rag, futile, given how stained they already were. "Ms. Johnson, good to see you. Just making sure this one made it here." Denise squeezed my shoulder. "I'll leave you to it. Kendra, call when you're ready." After she left, Dylan gestured toward my Honda, looking sadder in the bright light. "Want good news or bad news?" "Is there good news?" "It's fixable." "Bad news. Needs a new timing belt, cracked oil pan, and I'd recommend new brake pads." He scribbled on a notepad. "Parts and labor, about $600. My heart sank. I had $247. "I don't have that much. Maybe installments." Dylan studied me, then scratched out the number, wrote a new one. $250. "Dylan, that doesn't even cover your labor." "I'm not worried." Gentle but final. "Besides, my assistant's out with a broken leg. I could use help this week. Do you know anything about cars?" "Absolutely nothing." "Perfect. You can learn." His eyes sparkled. "Consider it working off the difference." I should have said no. Should have maintained pride, insisted on a payment plan. But standing in that sun-drenched garage, watching Dylan look at me like I was worth helping, I found myself nodding. "Okay, but I'm warning you, I'm a terrible assistant. I've had worse. Come on, let me show you around." The next 3 hours were a revelation. Dylan walked me through his shop with obvious pride, explaining tools, projects, and his philosophy on repair work. "Most people treat mechanics like scammers," he said, running his hand along a restored Mustang's hood. "And yeah, some are. But the good ones, we're trying to help people keep what they have running. There's honor in that. You really love this," I observed. "More than anything." His expression went distant. Growing up, I had this neighbor, Mr. Patterson, who restored classics in his garage. I'd spend hours watching him work, learning everything he'd teach. He said cars were honest. They'd tell you exactly what was wrong if you knew how to listen. "That's what you said yesterday." about engines not lying. Mr. Patterson's words, they stuck. Dylan moved to pull my Honda into the bay. Help me get this on the lift. I spent the morning handing Dylan tools I couldn't name, learning the difference between socket and torque wrenches, and listening to him explain things in terms I could almost understand. He was patient, never condescending, occasionally making me laugh with catastrophic repair stories. A woman came in last month, he said while draining my oil, and her car was making weird noises. Turned out she'd been driving with possums living in her engine. You're making that up. I swear on every tool in this shop. Had to call animal control. He grinned up at me. Cars attract the weirdest problems. Around noon, his phone rang. Dylan glanced at the screen and something shifted. Tension creeping into his shoulders, the easy warmth dimming. I need to take this, he said, already moving toward his office. Can you watch that oil drain? Make sure it doesn't overflow. Sure. Dylan disappeared into the small back office, closing the door. I tried focusing on the oil, but the thin walls carried his voice. I told you I'm not coming back. A pause. It doesn't matter what the board thinks. I'm building something here. Something that's mine, not anyone's legacy. Can't you understand that? Longer pause. When Dylan spoke again, his voice was strained. The Hartford property? He stopped. Because I'm still on the board. Right. Bitter laugh. Fine. But make sure the environmental team does a full assessment first. That actually matters to me. My hands stilled. Board meetings, properties. This wasn't just a family business. I have to go, Dylan said abruptly. Tell them I'll review the reports, but I'm not attending the meeting. They can handle it. Because I'm done being the face of something I don't believe in anymore. He emerged moments later, professional mask back in place. But I'd seen the cracks. Sorry about that, he said, checking my work. Family business stuff. Never really goes away. Dylan, I kept my voice careful. What kind of family business? He was quiet, hands stilling. The kind I left behind to be here. The kind that doesn't understand why anyone would choose this over a corner office, making decisions about properties they'll never see. So your family's in real estate? Real estate development, commercial properties, acquisitions. Dylan's jaw tightened. My dad built it from nothing. Spent his whole life making deals, acquiring buildings, expanding. He was brilliant at it, and he died at 52 from a heart attack in his office, surrounded by contracts instead of people who loved him. Dylan, I'm not him. I won't be him. His voice was fierce. I tried for 5 years after college. Wore the suits, made the deals, sat in boardrooms, and every day I felt like I was disappearing, becoming someone I didn't recognize. He stopped, taking a breath, trying to regain control. Sorry. You didn't ask for my life story. I kind of did. I moved closer, drawn by his raw honesty. You left all that to be a mechanic. I left to be myself. The mechanic part just happened to be what that looked like. Dylan managed a weak smile. My mother thinks I'm having a breakdown. My younger brother thinks I'm an idiot. But Kendra, I've never been happier than right here in this shop, working on cars that actually matter to people. I understood then why he'd stopped for me. Why had he been so kind? Dylan wasn't just helping a stranger. He was proving to himself that he could live a life that mattered in small, tangible ways. For what it's worth, I said quietly, I think you made the right choice. You're good at this, and you love it. That's rare. Yeah? His smile was genuine now, grateful. Thanks. That means more than you know. We worked in comfortable silence for another hour. Dylan finished the critical repairs, talking me through each step, occasionally asking me to hand him tools or hold something steady. The physical closeness, standing side by side, hands occasionally brushing, felt natural, easy. So tell me about your writing, Dylan said while testing my engine. What's your book about? A woman who loses everything and has to rebuild from scratch. I laughed. Apparently, I've been researching through experience. What happens to her? I'm still figuring that out. The ending's giving me trouble. She's supposed to find resolution, some way to accept her new life. But I can't make it feel earned. Maybe because you haven't found your ending yet. Dylan's gaze was steady. Maybe you need to live it before you can write it. The words settled between us, heavy with implications neither was ready to address. Your car's done, Dylan said finally. For now. But Kendra, save up for those brake pads soon? I will, thank you. I pulled out my wallet. $250? Actually, let's call it even. You helped today? He waved away my protests. I mean it. You kept me company, handed me tools, and listened to me vent. That's worth something. Dylan, I barely did anything. You did more than you know. His voice was soft, sincere. Besides, I have a feeling I'll see you around. Springfield's small. We've got a good diner on Main Street, best coffee in the county. Maybe I could show you around sometime? My heart did that complicated thing again. I'd like that. Good. Dylan's smile could have lit the whole shop. Then it's a date. Sort of. If you want it to be. I want it to be. Driving away, my car running smoothly for the first time in months, I felt yesterday's fragile hope strengthen. Dylan Carter was kind, talented, and genuine. He'd walked away from something significant to pursue what mattered. He saw me, not just my current mess, but the person I was trying to become. But I'd also heard that phone call, seen the tension when his other world intruded. Dylan was running from something, and I couldn't shake the feeling that eventually what he was running from would catch up to both of us. Would you fall for someone's present or worry about their past? Drop your thoughts below. Dylan started showing up at Aunt Denise's house with increasing frequency over the next 2 weeks. At first, it was practical, checking on my car, bringing in a part he'd found cheap. Then it became less about the car and more about just being there. We'd sit on the porch in November chill, drinking coffee Aunt Denise kept insisting she make for us, talking about everything and nothing. Dylan told me about growing up in his father's shadow, about business strategy sessions instead of high school football games. I told him about my mother's disappointment when I chose English over business school, about the call center job that slowly crushed my spirit. You're not going back to that, Dylan said one afternoon, voice firm. Customer service. You're a writer. Unemployed writers still need to eat. So write and find something that doesn't make you miserable. Springfield's got opportunities. The library's always looking for help. There's a bookstore on Main Street. Dylan. I turned to face him. Why do you care so much? He was quiet, studying his coffee cup. Because I spent 5 years being miserable doing what I was supposed to do instead of what I wanted. And I recognize that look in your eyes, like you're resigned to suffering because that's just how life works. But it doesn't have to be. Easy to say when you have options. Is it? Dylan's gaze sharpened. Kendra, I walked away from a guaranteed career, from everything my father built, from a path that was completely laid out for me. My family thinks I'm throwing my life away, but I'd rather be happy here than hollow somewhere else. The passion in his voice took my breath away. You really mean that? Every word. He set down his coffee. Look, I know we just met, and I know I'm probably overstepping, but you've got this fire when you talk about writing. Don't let the world put that out just because some agent said no. Before I could respond, Dylan stood abruptly. Come on, I want to show you something. 20 minutes later, we were driving through farmland outside Springfield in Dylan's truck. He turned down a dirt road leading to a sprawling ranch, horses grazing in distant fields. My friend Marcus owns this place, Dylan explained. He's been trying to get me out of here for months. Thinks I need to reconnect with real life. He parked near the stables. But I thought you might benefit more than me. You said you're stuck on your ending. Maybe you need a different perspective. The ranch was beautiful. Weathered wood fences, a red barn that had clearly been there for generations, pastoral scenes I'd only seen in movies. Marcus, a weathered man in his 60s, greeted us with a handshake and knowing smile. So you're the writer Dylan won't shut up about. He talks about me? The words escaped before I could stop them. Constantly. Marcus winked. Come on, city girl. Let's see if you can handle real work. The next 3 hours were equal parts humbling and exhilarating. Marcus taught me the basics of approaching horses, how to read their body language, the patience required to earn their trust. Dylan watched from the fence, calling out encouragement when I nearly got kicked trying to brush a particularly stubborn mare. She likes you, Marcus said. She just doesn't trust easily. Some animals are like that. Been hurt before, learned to protect themselves. I caught Dylan's eye across the stable, and something passed between us. Understanding, recognition. Then Marcus suggested I try milking a cow. Absolutely not, I protested, but Dylan was already leading me to the dairy barn, laughing at my expression. Come on, right? Where's your sense of adventure? I made a complete disaster of it. The cow was patient. Marcus was encouraging, but my hands couldn't find the rhythm. Milk went everywhere except the bucket. By the time I gave up, I was covered in dairy and humiliation. Dylan was crying with laughter. That was the worst milking attempt in agricultural history. Shut up. But I was laughing too, light and free in a way I hadn't felt in months. Driving back to town as the sun set, Dylan reached over and squeezed my hand. Thanks for indulging my crazy idea. Thanks for showing me I can fail at something new instead of something old. I squeezed back. It was perfect. Dylan pulled the truck over suddenly, turning to face me. The golden light painted everything warm, made his eyes look almost amber. Kendra, He leaned in slowly, giving me every chance to pull away, but I didn't want to. I wanted this, wanted him, with a certainty that should have terrified me. Our lips were inches apart when Dylan's phone rang. He pulled back with a curse, glancing at the screen. I'm sorry. I have to. It's my brother. It's fine. But the moment was broken, the spell shattered. Dylan took the call, his expression growing darker with each passing second. Tell her I'm not coming, because I don't care about appearances? Fine. Yes. I'll look at the documents. Goodbye. He hung up, knuckles white around the steering wheel. The tender man from moments ago had disappeared, replaced by someone fighting a battle I couldn't see. Dylan, I'm fine. He started driving again, voice tight. Just family stuff. Always family stuff. But I heard what he didn't say, that his past kept pulling at him, demanding pieces he'd tried to leave behind. The phone calls were getting more frequent, the tension more visible. Whatever Dylan was running from, it wasn't letting him go easily, and I was falling for him anyway. Despite the warnings in my head, despite knowing that whatever secrets he was keeping would eventually surface. We pulled up to Aunt Denise's house in silence. Dylan walked me to the porch, hands shoved in his pockets, clearly wrestling with something. I'm sorry about the phone, he said finally. Bad timing. It's okay, but Dylan? I touched his arm gently. Whatever you're dealing with, you know you can talk to me, right? Something flickered in his eyes. Fear, maybe. Or longing. I know, and I will. Soon. I just need to figure out how to say it first. He left before I could ask what it was. Inside, Aunt Denise took one look at my face and poured us both wine. You're falling for him. Is it that obvious? Honey, you're practically glowing. But there's something else there, too. Worry. I sipped the wine, thinking about Dylan's evasions, the mysterious phone calls, the way he tensed whenever his family came up. I think he's hiding something, something big. Most people are hiding something. Denise's voice was gentle. Question is, are you willing to wait for him to tell you? Or will you let fear keep you from something real? I didn't have an answer, not yet. But as I lay in bed that night, I could still feel the almost kiss, the way Dylan had looked at me in that golden light, like I was something precious, something worth protecting. Whatever he was hiding, whatever complications came with Dylan Carter, I was already in too deep to walk away. I just hoped that when the truth finally came out, it wouldn't destroy what we were building. Trust your heart or your instincts? What would you do? Drop a comment? The flu hit me 3 days later, brutal and sudden. I woke up shivering despite 3 blankets, my body aching like I'd been hit by a truck. When I tried to get up, the room spun violently. Aunt Denise found me an hour later, still in bed, feverish and miserable. "Oh, honey," she pressed a hand to my forehead. "You're burning up. I'm calling Dr. Morrison." "I'm fine," I croaked, though I absolutely wasn't. "You're not fine. And I have that appointment in Columbia this afternoon. I can't miss it. My specialist is booked out for months." She looked torn. "Maybe I should cancel." "Don't." I forced myself to sound stronger than I felt. "It's just the flu. I'll sleep it off. I don't like leaving you alone. I'm 28, not 8. I'll be fine." Aunt Denise left reluctantly, promising to be back by evening. I spent the next few hours drifting in and out of feverish sleep, too weak to even reach for water, my body alternating between freezing and burning. A knock on the door pulled me from another fever dream. I ignored it, assuming it was a delivery. But then I heard a key turning, Aunt Denise must have given someone her spare, and footsteps in the hallway. "Kendra?" Dylan's voice, concerned. "Denise called me, said you were sick and she had to leave town." "I don't need a babysitter," I mumbled into my pillow, though secretly I was relieved not to be alone. "Good thing I'm here as a friend, then." Dylan appeared in the doorway, and even through my fever haze, I could see the worry in his eyes. He set down a bag from the pharmacy in the diner, then moved to sit in the chair beside my bed. "When's the last time you ate?" I tried to remember. "Yesterday, maybe?" "Kendra." His voice was gentle but firm. "You need to eat something. I brought soup from the diner. Chicken noodle. Denise said it's your favorite." He helped me sit up, propping pillows behind me with surprising tenderness. His hand brushed my forehead, checking my temperature, and even that simple touch felt grounding, real. "You're really burning up. Did you take anything?" "Couldn't get to the medicine cabinet." Dylan disappeared to the bathroom, returning with fever reducers and a glass of water. He waited patiently while I swallowed the pills, then opened the soup container. "I can feed myself," I protested weakly. "I know, but let me help anyway." There was something intimate about it, Dylan spooning soup while I was too weak to argue, his focus entirely on making sure I ate enough to keep the medicine down. He talked quietly while I ate, telling me about his day at the shop, about the Camaro that was finally finished, about anything to keep my mind off how terrible I felt. "Okay, that's enough for now," he said when I'd managed half the container. "You need to sleep." But I didn't want to sleep. For the first time in days, the fever had broken enough that my mind felt almost clear, and Dylan was here, and I didn't want him to leave. "Stay?" The word came out small, vulnerable. "Just until I fall asleep?" "I'm not going anywhere." Dylan settled deeper into the chair, pulling out his laptop. "I've got paperwork to catch up on anyway." "Sleep, Kendra. I'll be right here." I drifted off to his presence, the quiet sound of typing, his occasional movement, the knowledge that someone was watching over me. When I woke again, the room was dark except for the soft glow of Dylan's laptop. My fever had spiked again. I was shaking despite the blankets. my teeth chattering. Dylan noticed immediately. He closed his laptop, moved to the bed, and, without asking, lay down on top of the covers beside me, wrapping his arms around me to share his warmth. "Dylan, you'll get sick." "I don't care." His voice was low, close to my ear. "You're freezing. Just let me help." I was too tired to argue. I let myself sink into his warmth, into the solid presence of him. And in that feverish half state between waking and sleeping, I heard him speak. "You're stronger than you think, Kendra." His voice was soft, like he was talking to himself more than me. "I see it every time you talk about your writing, every time you refuse to give up, even when you have every reason to. You're the bravest person I know." I wanted to respond, but couldn't quite surface from the fever. "I'm falling for you," Dylan continued, and I felt his arms tighten slightly, which is terrifying because I don't know how to do this. How to let someone in when I'm still figuring out who I am outside of expectations and legacy and everything I walked away from. But I want to try, with you, if you'll let me. His hand brushed hair back from my forehead, gentle, careful. "I know I have things I need to tell you. About my family, about what I left behind, about why those phone calls keep coming, and I will tell you. I promise. But right now, all that matters is that you get better. Because Kendra Wright, you've become important to me in a way I didn't think was possible anymore." I tried to speak, to tell him I heard him, that I was falling too, but exhaustion and fever dragged me back under. When I woke the next morning, Dylan was gone. But there was fresh water on the nightstand. My fever had broken, and there was a note on the pillow beside me. "Feel better. When you're up for it, we need to talk. But not about anything bad, I promise. Just about how I'd really like to take you on an actual date. Because what do we have? It's too important to leave undefined. Not going anywhere, D." I pressed the note to my chest, feeling something warm bloom despite the lingering flu symptoms. 2 days later, feeling almost human again, I called Dylan. "Did you mean it?" "Mean what?" But I could hear the smile in his voice. He knew exactly what I was asking. "What you said when you thought I was asleep, about falling for me." A pause. Then, "You heard that? Every word." "Then yes." His voice was steady, certain. "I meant every word. Kendra, I know the timing's not perfect, and I know I come with complications, but I want this. I want you. If you want me, too." "I do." The words felt like jumping off a cliff and growing wings at the same time. "I really do." "Then let me take you on a proper date. Once you're fully recovered. Let me show you I'm serious about this. About us." "Okay, but Dylan..." I took a breath. "No more secrets. If we're doing this, I need honesty. All of it." There was a brief hesitation. Then, "No more secrets. I promise. There are things about my family, about what I walked away from. I'll tell you everything. Soon. On our date. You deserve to know who I really am. I already know who you are. You're the man who stopped to help a stranger, who takes care of people, who chose happiness over expectations." I smiled. "The rest is just details." "Important details," Dylan said quietly. "But thank you. For seeing me. For..." His voice caught. "For making me want to be honest about everything." We hung up with plans for the following weekend. A real date, a real conversation, a real chance at something that felt more right than anything had in years. I just had no idea that everything would turn my world upside down, that the man I was falling for wasn't just someone who'd walked away from a family business. He was heir to an empire I couldn't begin to imagine. But that revelation was still ahead of me. For now, I just felt grateful that someone saw me, really saw me, and was choosing to stay. What secrets would you forgive for love? Comment your thoughts below. I went to Dylan's shop the following Monday with coffee and excitement about our upcoming date. Instead, I found him in a heated argument with a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a Forbes magazine. Designer suit, perfectly tailored, diamond jewelry that could pay my rent for a year, blonde hair in an elegant twist, and an expression of cold fury directed entirely at Dylan. "You can't hide here forever," she said, her voice sharp as glass. "The Hartford deal is worth $15 million. The board needs your signature, and the investors are getting impatient." I froze in the doorway, coffee forgotten. "Then they can wait," Dylan shot back, his back to me, "or handle it without me. Your father built Carter Development from nothing, and it killed him," Dylan's voice cracked. "Mom, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not sacrificing my life for Dad's empire." "Mom," this was Jennifer Carter, "you're throwing away billions to play mechanic in a backwater town." Her disgust was palpable. "Do you have any idea how this looks? The Carter heir covered in grease, refusing board meetings, living like I'm happy?" Dylan's hands clenched. "God forbid. Your father would be ashamed. My father is dead. He worked himself into the grave by 52. And you want me to follow? I won't do it. I won't be him. So you'll be this instead? A mechanic with delusions of purpose?" Jennifer's laugh was bitter. "You have a responsibility to the company, to the family name, to the Carter Development empire." Empire, billions, Carter Development. The coffee slipped from my hands, hitting the concrete floor with a crash. They both turned. Dylan's face went white when he saw me. Jennifer's eyes swept over me with devastating efficiency. My thrift store clothes, my shocked expression, cataloging and dismissing me in seconds. "And who's this?" Her smile was cruel. "Another charity case you're trying to save?" "Mom, don't. I'm Kendra." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Dylan and we're dating?" Jennifer's eyebrows rose. "How convenient. Does she know who you really are, Dylan? Or are you playing humble mechanic with her too? Letting her think you're just some working-class hero who walked away from Daddy's small business?" She turned to me, and I saw pity in her eyes. Worse than contempt, pity. "Carter Development Group owns half the commercial real estate in the Midwest, dear. Hotels, office complexes, and shopping centers across 6 states. My son isn't just heir to a business. He's heir to a $3 billion empire. But I'm sure he conveniently forgot to mention that." $3 billion. The room tilted. "You're a billionaire." The words felt foreign in my mouth. "Not just, you're an actual billionaire. Technically, the family is. I don't what? Don't have access to it? Don't benefit from it? Don't sit on the board of a billion-dollar company." My voice was rising, shaking. "God, Dylan." I poured my heart out about being broke, about choosing between fixing my car and eating, about losing everything. And you just let me. You let me think you understood. I do understand. No, you don't. Tears burned my eyes. You chose this life. You could go back to your penthouse or mansion or whatever tomorrow if you wanted. I'm here because I have nowhere else to go. We're not the same. We were never the same. "Kendra, please. I need space." I backed toward the door. "Don't call me. Don't come by. I can't do this right now." I left before he could respond. Before Jennifer could make another cutting remark. Before I completely fell apart in front of them. Dylan Carter wasn't a mechanic who'd walked away from a family business. He was a billionaire playing at being normal, and I'd fallen for the lie. Would you forgive this deception, or is honesty too important? Tell us in the comments. I didn't answer Dylan's calls, deleted his texts without reading them. For 3 weeks, I barely left Aunt Denise's guest room. The manuscript became my salvation and my torture. I wrote like I was bleeding onto the page, my protagonist's journey shifting, deepening with every word. She wasn't just rebuilding her life anymore. She was learning to trust after betrayal, learning that people were more complicated than the masks they wore, learning that love required courage she wasn't sure she had. Aunt Denise brought me food I barely ate. "You gonna tell me what happened?" He lied. My voice was raw. "Dylan's not just some guy who walked away from a family business. He's heir to Carter Development Group. $3 billion, Denise. And he never told me. Did you ask? That's not... Isn't it?" She sat on the edge of my bed. "That boy walked away from more money than we can imagine to fix cars. You think maybe he didn't tell you because he wanted you to see him, not his bank account. He should have trusted me, and you should trust him enough to hear his side." She squeezed my hand. "Pride's a lonely companion, honey." But I wasn't ready. Not yet. Instead, I wrote, poured every ounce of confusion and heartbreak into my protagonist's story. And somewhere around 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, I found the ending. Not neat or perfect, but real. My character didn't get everything she wanted, but she got what she needed. The courage to choose her own path, to forgive imperfect people, to believe that broken things could be repaired. I typed the final words through tears, then spent a week revising until it was the best thing I'd ever written. I submitted to 15 publishers. 12 rejected me within days. 3 never responded. Then a month after walking out of Dylan's shop, an email arrived. "Dear Miss Wright, we've reviewed Finding Home and would like to offer publication. An anonymous benefactor has agreed to fund the initial print run and marketing campaign. Please contact us to discuss contract terms. Best regards, Patricia Bloom, Senior Editor, Beacon Press." I stared at the screen, emotions warring. This was everything I'd dreamed of. A real publisher, a real chance. But an anonymous benefactor? Dylan. It had to be Dylan. Guilt money. A billionaire's way of easing his conscience. Pity dressed up as opportunity. I typed a furious response declining the offer. Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. Finally, I grabbed my keys. If Dylan thought he could buy my forgiveness, he was about to learn exactly how wrong he was. I stormed into Dylan's shop, manuscript email, clutched in my hand like a weapon. He was working on a Corvette, but stopped the moment he saw me. "Kendra!" My name was relief and pain combined. "Did you do this?" I shoved the paper at him. "Pay a publisher to take my book out of guilt?" Dylan read it, confusion crossing his face. "What?" "No. I didn't even know you'd finished writing." "Don't lie." "I'm not lying." Desperation in his voice. "I haven't contacted you because you asked for space, but I didn't do this." "Then who?" "I did." We both turned. Jennifer Carter stood in the doorway, but something in her expression had changed. Softer. Almost vulnerable. "You?" I couldn't process it. "Why?" "Because my son loves you, and because I read your manuscript. Dylan had a copy, read it obsessively. So I read it too." She moved closer. "It's good, Ms. Wright. Raw, honest. It deserves to be published." "I don't understand." "My husband died building an empire, never actually living." Jennifer's voice cracked. "I don't want that for Dylan. When I saw how he looked at you, I realized you might be his chance at something real." She turned to Dylan. "You were right. About everything. Your father would be proud of you for having the courage to walk away." "Mom, the publishing offer isn't manipulation. It's an apology. And Ms. Wright, it stands regardless of what happens between you two. Patricia Bloom doesn't take projects that won't sell." Jennifer left us alone. "I'm sorry," Dylan said, "for not telling you sooner. You deserve the truth." "I'm sorry, too. For assuming the worst." I moved closer. "For not giving you a chance to explain." "So where does that leave us?" I thought about my manuscript's ending, about trust and courage. "It leaves us trying again. For real this time." No secrets, just honesty. Dylan's smile could have powered the town. I can do that. Kendra Wright, would you let me take you on a proper date? Yes. But I'm taking that publishing deal because I earned it. You absolutely did. He pulled me close, and this time when he leaned in, nothing interrupted us. The kiss was everything, promise and possibility, and the beginning of something real. Dylan picked me up in a restored 1967 Mustang, taking me to a secluded observatory outside Springfield. Under the vast star-filled sky, he was quiet at first, then began to speak. I wanted to be an astronomer when I was a kid, he said softly. Spent hours staring at the stars, dreaming about discovery and wonder. Then my dad had his first heart attack when I was 16, and suddenly I was in board meetings instead of science class. His hand found mine. This place reminds me of who I was before the expectations, before I learned to wear the mask. You don't have to wear masks with me. I know. That's why his phone rang. Dylan glanced at the screen. Board meeting emergency flashed across it. His mother had been calling all week about some crisis that required his presence in New York. He looked at the phone, then at me, then back at the stars. No, he said into the phone. Handle it without me. I'm done. He hung up, turned the phone off completely. Dylan, if it's important... You're important. This is important. He faced me fully. I've been halfway in, halfway out for 3 years, keeping my board seat, attending calls, reviewing deals, telling myself I'd left when I really hadn't. He took both my hands. I'm choosing this, choosing you, choosing the life I actually want. Tomorrow I'm signing papers to step down completely. No more board seat, no more emergency calls. Just me, my shop, and, if you'll have me, us. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Dylan pulled me close. I love you, Kendra. I should have said it weeks ago. I love you, and I'm done running from it. I love you, too. The words felt like freedom. We kissed under the stars, and for the first time, Dylan's phone stayed silent. He'd finally chosen his own life, and he'd chosen me. Would you give up billions for true love? Share your thoughts below. 6 months later, Springfield's bookstore overflowed with people for my book launch. Friends, neighbors, Aunt Denise is beaming with pride. My novel, Finding Home, displayed in the window, real and tangible and mine. But Dylan was missing. He'd texted that morning. Emergency in New York. Signing final papers. I'll try to make it. I smiled through my reading, through the questions and congratulations, through the moment I'd dreamed of for years. But my eyes kept drifting to the door. Then, as I was signing the last book, the door opened. Dylan walked in, still wearing his suit from the lawyer's office, hair disheveled from travel. Our eyes met across the crowded room, and everything else faded. He made his way through the crowd, pulled me aside to the quiet poetry section. I'm out, he said, breathless. Completely. Signed everything. No more board seat, no more corporate obligations. Just me and my shop. He paused. And hopefully you. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a simple silver ring with a tiny diamond. This was my grandmother's. She gave it to my dad, who gave it to my mom, who gave it to me before she fully let me go. She said to give it to someone who makes me want to build something real. Dylan knelt in the poetry section of Springfield's bookstore, surrounded by words about love and hope and new beginnings. Kendra Wright, you saw me when I was covered in a grease on an empty highway. You fell for the mechanic, not the money. You taught me that home isn't a mansion or an empire. It's a person who sees you, really sees you, and chooses to stay. Tears streamed down my face. Will you marry me? Will you help me build a life that matters, not because of what we have, but because of who we choose to be together? Yes, The word came out as a sob. Yes, yes, yes. We kissed as the bookstore erupted in applause. Two people who'd found each other when everything else had fallen apart. Sometimes the best things come from broken down cars on empty roads. Sometimes home is a person who stops when you need them most. And sometimes happy endings are just new beginnings in disguise.